Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Nydia and great to have you here. If you haven't done already, please click like, subscribe and the notification bell below. Okay, so this week's topic, as you can tell, is going to be on journaling. And I came up with this topic because a friend said to me that she liked the initial video on journaling and wanted to ask if I could expand upon it. And so I kind of first thought about why I journal, but I think I've already spoken about that. But anybody who's interested in journaling or has already begun the technique or wants to know why do we bother, well, here is a snapshot summary why I journal. First of all, it really helps me to clarify my thoughts, my ideas, things that are bubbling to the surface. That's one. Two, it allows me to sometimes be able to say things that are very difficult for me to say out in the open on paper. So it provides a kind of like a safe space for me to do some writing. And three, I think it's a great way to also allow the subconscious to really channel. And that there are things that sometimes are addressed in journaling in certain times of day or certain techniques, which I just could not have done if I had not put pen to paper or had not come up with the thoughts. So this week, yeah, I am going to be talking about journaling. And so what do you need? Well, a journal, some pen and paper, and off we go. So keeping it very simple. The first thing that I want to talk about journaling and a tool and a tip or a technique is to make sure that you get a book that you can use. So first of all, don't worry about it being like the most fabulous or expensive journal ever or using expensive paper. For those who really find that could help them, or they want something very pretty or something that's a very much nice design, that's fantastic. And if you want to splurge on that or put some money aside in your budget for that, go ahead, do so. If you want really nice, thick quality paper, like this one I think has a very nice, I think this is at least 80 GSM paper, go for it. But buy within your budget. That's what I always say, buy within what's possible and feasible. And the whole point is to actually use the journal. So that's tip number one, and that goes into tip number two. No journal that we buy will ever be as important as what we put into the journal. And that goes on to the fact that I believe in a way that a book really lives when a reader reads it and makes comments or really absorbs it and has that imagination fired up and really goes into why I bother reading this book. What do I want to say about it? Do I want to recommend it? Do I want to put a review on Amazon about it? Whatever we say about books, in a way, a journal for me really becomes a journal and fulfills its purpose when it's used. So if it sits on a shelf and looks very pretty, but it doesn't go much further than that, for me, it's a little bit sad. They're there to be used, and my writing or your writing is more important than the actual journal. So even if it's just sentences or just stream of thought or bullet points or lists or doodles, it doesn't really matter. Just the journal is not as important as the use of the journal. That's what I'm trying to say. And your thoughts in there. So that's number two. Number three, the tip that I have is something that I've picked up from creative writing, which is in creative writing, there are prompts that can be used. For example, a prompt can be the blue car pulled up to the hotel and she walked out, not sure what she was going to say. There's some kind of a story in there, obviously. And creative writers, in order to get kind of like powered up or to keep their writing going every single day, they use these prompts. And then from there, one can write whatever they want to write. And prompts are just basically a sentence or the beginning of a paragraph, and then it gets expanded, basically. And it's to ensure that the creative writer keeps up their practice. It's just practice, basically. And one thing that a person can do for their own journaling is to come up with creative prompts of their own, or just prompts of their own. For example, today has been a surprising day because of ... and then leave a few pages blank. Then when you're journaling, you can come back and use that as a prompt to start journaling. So it's not like a blank piece of paper. There's a prompt there for you. Or another prompt could be, today I'm really grateful for XXX, or today I met up with whatever, and then leave a few pages blank, and it can become a prompt. And therefore, yeah, it's not about like, oh my God, what am I going to write? Something's there to start you off, and then you just do whatever you want, basically. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is there is no specific time of day to journal. But what I do suggest is to pick a slot, and it's a bit of a trial and error process at the beginning, but then to try and stick to that slot. So for example, it can be morning journaling over a cup of coffee. Grab your coffee, grab your cereal, your muesli, your fruit and yogurt, whatever it is, toast, but sit down with a breakfast and the pen and paper, and just start and see what happens, and give yourself 10-15 minutes saying, this is it, this is what I'm going to do. It could also be evening journaling. It could be kind of like at the end of the day, just before going to bed, sit on the bed, get the pen and paper and do some writing. And it's just another good way to keep a slot in the day specific for that activity. And that way we honor the tradition, we honor the practice, and in a way it's honoring the self-care, basically. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 that I have is, and it kind of like is part of tip number 3 a little bit, is something that I like to do, which is listening to calm meditation music, and then listening to it for about 10-15 minutes, whatever I like, whether it's the sounds of the forest or the sounds of the ocean, and then letting my mind quieten down, finding that space, and then journaling a little bit for a few pages. And I found that to be really helpful for me, specifically at night. But again, you can do it at whatever time of day. Just pick a slot and try it. And the 5th tool that I have is, and this is why it's a little bit of a blend, because I've been doing some videos on tarot and oracle decks, and I thought I would kind of like merge it with that because it's helped me tremendously, is get something like an oracle deck that you like, or it can be a painting or a postcard or the cover of a book. It doesn't have to be that you go out and buy something. It can be just an imagery that draws you. You can look up something on the internet as well, and randomly pick some kind of a painting or drawing or some kind of a visual effect. And what I like to do is sometimes just sit down, and you can pick a card. For example, I'm going to pick this one now. So pick a card and then just sit with it and see what comes up. Now, this is a very, very strong image that I'm showing you here, but it leaves a lot to the imagination, and what it can bring up within me. For example, it can be anger coming out of my head, and can be desperation. Maybe it's something that I want to vocalize, and it doesn't have to be a negative energy, but I just need to vocalize it. Maybe it's just thoughts that are running wild. I don't know. But this is just an example of a card, and to sit with it and then to write about it. The other thing somebody can do is they can take pastels, and just using pastels or paints or whatever you have at hand, to write or to draw or to sketch some kind of images with merging with the colors of the painting or the image. So that way there's kind of like a reflection of what you're taking out of there. And I came up with this a few days ago when I was speaking to a friend. I thought that could be a possible way. This is another image. Very, very powerful stuff here. Just looking at that there. So much comes to mind there. There's a little bit of that image, which I don't know what he's sitting on or what's below him. It looks like some kind of a shell. Is he inside a cave? Is she inside a cave? Is that a flower? Is that some kind? I don't know. I mean, that for me is just so powerful, and I would just like to sit there and think, what does this bring up inside of me? Is this bringing up from me things that I need to nurture and grow, or something I need to protect? Or below it there is kind of like an image of some kind of, for me it looks a little bit like claws. So is it something that I'm sitting upon that's holding something? I don't know. But these are just examples of images that then provoke in me, like, what do I see? What does it resonate with? Whatever I'm dealing with at that time. Another And sorry, just to point out so that it helps everyone, the deck that I just showed you there, get the right way up. This is Soul Cards. It's a deck by Deborah Koff Chapin, mass market, available on Amazon and Book Depository and other outlets, even from her website as well. She's also done Soul Cards too, so beautiful oracle decks, or I don't even know if they're oracle decks, they're just decks with these wonderful images. Another kind of deck that I could show you is one where there are actually prompts below. So this is Heal Yourself, reading cards, and this is in a Segal, hopefully I pronounce it correctly. Also mass market deck, widely available on outlets such as Amazon and Book Depository. And here is an example of a deck where you could pull a card and the keywords with the image help create some kind of a story or food for thought. That's what I'm going to say, food for thought. So for example, I'm just going to pull something randomly here, but here's one. So this says below here, let me read that properly. Right, it says, discover your life purpose. Now, very strong statement. And, you know, today I'm not thinking about that specific topic, but it would bring me back to, am I having questions or thoughts about how I am of purpose in my life, in my calling, in the areas that I like to work in, how I provide service, how I am just out there in the world, not just in alignment with whatever I believe in, but also in alignment with the people around me and being a part of my community and my family and so forth. So this is a really great card just to pull out, you know, about discovering your life purpose. It could also be about tapping into my talents, my creativity, because I'm just seeing the violin there. It could be listening to something perhaps. So again, you know, a great cue. And, you know, there are different kinds of decks. It might not be one of these. It could be something with a more masculine energy. It could be a deck which has animals. I can show you those in the future too, and how to journal with those. But basically to use some kind of a visual cue for your journaling. And lastly, the last tip that I want to say about journaling is, I'm just checking my notes here. If I got through all of the different suggestions that I can provide, is not to keep journaling in a box. So it doesn't have to be a specific way that somebody else journals. And I'm coming back to that, but I've heard it again, so from friends. So, you know, allow yourself to have that space about how you want to journal, but to not also say that I've always journaled like this, I've always written 2 pages, I've always written 1 page, I've always done it in the morning, and then to stay stuck to that. Journaling itself is evolutionary. So allow oneself to evolve as your journaling evolves. So I think that's 5 tips, 5 or 6, I can't remember now. But hopefully these help you if you're stuck. My golden rule is I think the one that I always get stuck in is buying pretty notebooks and not using them. So I'm always going back to that the notebook is actually worth less if we don't use it, basically. I think a journal really comes alive when we use it. And the last thing I want to just say before I forget, and I need to look this one up again for examples, is, you know, also you can collage in your journal. You can stick in bits of an article you found or an image that you've seen somewhere and you want to cut it out and paste it in, or you want to use washi tape to make it look pretty. I mean, basically it's your space. So it can be a mixture of writing and images and fabrics that you've stuck in there, whatever really just allows you to have expression. So I hope these ideas and tips have helped you. Let me know, put it in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.